Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. The Dragon has landed. Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski has successfully returned from Earth's orbit, and now it's time to sum up this remarkable achievement. And so we're joined by Jakub Kapiszewski, head of TVP World's business section, to discuss the Polish space mission.
Finally.
And its implications, of course. So, as I said, Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski is back on the blue planet, but is this the end of the mission for him?
Well, I think it's just the beginning, because as every former astronaut, he now is going to be used extensively, and I hope so, and he should be absolutely extensively for many educational and PR activities for Polish space program. Hopefully, because this program has been gaining speed for a couple of years now. It's still relatively small. The industry is relatively small, so it needs all the help it can get to garner public support and to convince politicians that actually more cash should be pushed into putting Poland.
What does Poland need a space program for? What are its goals?
Well, we don't have a space program per se like China or the United States. We have a nascent space industry, so a group of companies that specialize in providing products and services that are related to space in some form or shape. And we need this because it's a source of well-paid jobs. And this is the element of a greater debate about the Polish economy in itself. So the past 30 years, Polish economy have been growing because we had certain advantages. For example, cheap labor, but these advantages are now running out. So Poland has to transform its economy by moving into products that have higher value added, as economists like to say. So basically, they are harder to make, they require more know-how, they require more capital investment, and usually these are made only by the higher developed countries. And we aspire to be economy, like a very developed economy. So that's why we should move from doing simple stuff to more complicated stuff. And space is a very good example of the more complicated stuff in the economy.
But do we have the infrastructure needed, to pursue such goals?
You don't need an infrastructure at the very beginning. Like, you need some production facilities, and Polish companies have, for example, so-called clean rooms. So these are places where you have ventilated air. You don't need speck of dust when you screw some screws on a new satellite. So we have companies doing that already. But I think there is a big potential for them to make more and to provide products for international clients. Because right now they are mainly providing for the Polish government or for the European Space Agency. But ideally what we would like them to do is provide services for the companies around the world to make more money, basically.
Talking about money, and let's get back to the International Space Station for a while. Are you familiar with the experiments Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski has conducted up there?
Yeah, quite interesting stuff, actually.
Tell us a bit, please.
So there was one experiment that Sławosz was experimenting with a new fabric that was developed at the AGH University of Technology in Krakow. That's materials science, and materials science is always very exciting because it can lead to new materials and new usages for those materials. There was an experiment on gut microbiota. So these are basically bacteria we have in our gut. How do they perform in space? Because human body operates like in a totally different environment in microgravity. It behaves in many unexpected ways. So scientists from one of the Polish institutes wanted to see how the microgravity influences the gut microbiota. And the Polish Space Agency says that all these experiments, they provide so-called flight heritage. So this is like a seal of approval. Listen, this experiment or this technology, it has been actually into space. And this differentiates it from all the other stuff other people are doing. So this is like a special, very special seal of approval, which will make applying for European Space Agency grants, like science grants in the future, easier, they hope that it's going to be. And it gives you the seal of approval. Listen, this device has actually spent 2 weeks in space. We know it works in space. So now if you want to use it in space on your spaceship, you can, because
And what about the practical use of for example, the fabric you've just talked about here on Earth. When we talk about something that went up there, and made a huge career, the first thing that comes to my mind is actually the wristwatch.
Yeah,
I think it was Omega that went first to it was on Moon, as a matter of fact. So. Is there anything that Sławosz Uznański brings back from Earth's orbit, and it's here on Earth, and now it's going to revolutionize somehow our lives?
I don't think so, and there are two very specific reasons for that. First of all, Sławosz spent only 2 weeks or something in space, so it's not a very long time to conduct an experiment, like a science experiment. These usually run for years, so there you go, that's one barrier. And the second one is science experiments conducted in space cannot be very complicated because there's very limited amount of space available, limited resources like power available, so it's not like a groundbreaking, it's not LHC, you cannot put LHC, Large Hadron Collider, into space. And also, now the scientists working on those experiments, they have to gather data, analyze the data, and maybe we'll know the results half a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. Maybe some of those experiments need follow-up experiments. We don't know that. But I'm pretty sure it won't be that 3 weeks from now we'll have like a finished product standing on shelves, because this isn't how science works and this isn't how product development works.
So as you said, Poland is already investing large sums of money into its space sector, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It is.
No, it's not. And this is what I wanted to show.
80% of the Axiom 4 mission, I mean, the Sławosz Uznański's part, was paid by Poland. Only 20% was paid by the European Space Agency. Therefore, that's big money.
Absolutely. Yeah, when it comes to Axiom 4 mission, yeah, we had to pay for that because this was basically a private funded mission. Axiom 4 is a private company. It offers services to governments like Polish government or Hungarian government or Indian government in this respect. But it buys those services from SpaceX, which is a private company. So although Sławosz Uznański was a so-called project astronaut and he received some training from European Space Agency, this basically has been a privately funded mission. And when I say that we are not putting enough cash into space, I mean the cash Poland puts into the budget of European Space Agency. We pay less than 200 million euros yearly, so this is less than Belgium, like a country that is much smaller than Poland. And European Space Agency operates on the principle that the cash you put in is the cash you bring out to your space sector, basically. So the more money Poland puts in, the more money flows back to Polish companies.
Here's my following question. Will therefore Poland be prioritized in selling, the practical aspects of the discoveries made in space, right? Whether it will be Poland to sell this cosmic fabric, or whether it will be Poland to sell the knowledge concerning, the gut microbiota, right?
Gut microbiota, exactly. But first, as I said, those experiments were too short, I think, to produce groundbreaking results that can be used in a products. But I think that if Poland wants to really capitalize on Uznański missions, we should follow on with larger investments into space sector. So increasing our funding for the ESA so that more cash flows back to Polish space companies. I don't know, invest in some kind of a small robotic mission just to keep the momentum. You remember Adam Małysz, like the famous sportsman?
I was actually about to refer to him. Another Pole, flying pretty high. Yeah.
So we had a sportsman in a sports discipline that was very exotic at the time, right? People were watching, but it's not a mass sport. So we had this very famous sportsman, and we had to ask ourselves, what are we doing with this momentum that ski jumping gained thanks to Adam Małysz? So we built some infrastructure, we made the education system better, and now we have more people able to reproduce Adam Małysz results. And I think Sławosz Uznański mission should be basically the same. So we sent a Polish person into space. It gained momentum. People are obviously very excited about the fact that he was into space, that he came back successfully. Now there's going to be a long streak of public talks and invitations and lectures and so on. And it's very important that he keeps the momentum, but it's very important that the government recognizes that just putting person into space is not enough. You have to follow up.
Yeah, but don't you see a tiny difference between, buying yourself a jumping suit or whatever you call it, and a pair of skis, and train for, like many years of your life and spend humongous amount of money to go into space?
There is, absolutely. And that's why we should pour more cash into European Space Agency's pocket so that we have real astronauts, like people who form the core of the astronauts corps at the European Space Agency. Because, of course, whatever training Sławosz Uznański received, it wasn't a full training. Mm-hmm. It was like a partial training because he has to know the insights of the international space stations and so on. But it wasn't a full training program because we do not contribute as much to the ESA's budget as other member states do. So in order for this to keep the momentum going and to make Polish students flock into universities, into robotics divisions because they want to build actual space stuff, we need the government to order more space stuff from the companies, from this nascent space industry that Poland has been developing for the past 15 years.
So you think it will happen, that it wasn't just a one-time feat? Let me...
I'm not sure it's going to happen. We haven't heard anything...
Well, let me paraphrase Andrzej Domański, the Polish finance minister. Well, he claims that every euro spent on space industry returns 3 to 6 fold, right? So
there you go. Sounds like a good investment and like a sound investment. However, it's politicians calling the shots when it comes to spending public cash, because it is public cash. It's a form of a public investment, really. So the government buys something, but as we know, there's no such thing as government's money. It's yours money, it's my money, it's the taxpayers' money. So politicians need to be convinced, not by Slawosz, by himself, but just the momentum his mission has gained. They have to recognize that Polish people were excited, and there is public appetite for funding space stuff, so that we can actually follow on this path for development of the space industry, create better jobs, and move Poland up the value chain in a global economy.
The future looks bright.
Should be bright, like stars.
Jakub Kapiszewski, head of TVP World's business section, was our guest today. Thank you very much, Kuba.
Pleasure, Maciek.
And thank you for watching and stay with us for much more space stuff too here on TVP World.